G'day guys, welcome back to the next part in the series. I think I went a little bit too long on the first part, so this is a continuation of the first part of the series in measuring and cutting and building the basic building. So if you've got any feedback in the comments below, let me know. Coming up shortly after that is adding the detail to the building, and after that we'll get on to painting it. In further episodes down the track, I'll start to talk about adding more significant detail, more advanced details, and texture to the buildings. So thanks very much for watching so far. We're going to run a pylon up there out of balsa wood or some other sort of material to fill that gap and add ourselves a little bit of width here on the side. Okay, so that's where we are so far. Let's get this back all the way out here. Now what we want to start doing before we go ahead and use one of these pieces that we cut out before for our floor on the inside. We want to add some texture to this because it'll be difficult to do if the building is already assembled and glued and that piece is stuck in there. So the way I do that is I take my, what's this called? An X-Acto blade, and I go through and I just shave off, oops, we need to move this. I just take my blade on the corner of the table and I just shave off the corners. And then I just go to it with my fingers and just hack and cut it and sort of just get in there. You really can't do anything wrong with this. Where you've got an exposed window, i.e. on this ruin, the window's also going to be ruined. So get in there and carve out that. And now you'll notice I'm cutting towards myself. Be very careful when you're doing this. You can cut this way, but I just find a lot more control if I'm cutting this way. Now I know that's one of the golden rules, never cut towards yourself, but I'm going to ignore that rule because I'm old enough to tell myself what to do. I'm not going to say I'm not going to cut myself, because when I say that, I'm going to slip. If you're using a sharp knife, you're not really going to have a problem. You only ever cut yourself when you have blunt knives. I used to work in a kitchen and I used to see chefs cut themselves all the time, and someone else would come along and say, your knives aren't sharp, mate. You should have sharpened the knives. No pity for you. So we just go through and on this side of the building where we've etched out our lines, we want to make random cuts and jagged edges and stuff like that. Once we've done that, so you notice I didn't cut these windows here because they hadn't been damaged. We're going to, oops, where are we? I didn't cut these windows. We're going to add damage to those later on, bullet holes and stuff like that. So I've textured this side. It is important to flip it over and do the other side as well, so that when the building goes together, it's not all neat on this side and jagged on that side, it's jagged on both sides. So do one side, flip it over, just go through and sort of quickly trim out some of the detail here. If you're doing this in a classroom or with kids or part of an art project or something like that, and you don't feel comfortable with people using sharp knives, you could do this with a pair of scissors and just ripping it out with your fingers. That's certainly going to work as well. Okay, so there we go. We've basically just ripped our pieces out. So I'll zoom that back out and get ourselves another shot here. Oh, that is zoomed out, fair enough. Okay, so there we are. Okay, so there's our building so far. We've drawn everything, started with a flat piece, we've drawn everything out, cut the windows, and then we textured the outside surfaces and the inside surfaces. Now what we want to do is we want to put in our floor. Taking one of the pieces that we cut off of here before, I think that piece came from that side. I'm going to take that piece, I'm going to add a little bit of texture to it, and then we're going to put it inside the building. So to start off with, I'm just going to recut this line because it's not straight. Oh yeah, this knife needs to be replaced. Okay, so there's our building. This is going to fit inside here. As you can see, it's pretty much almost a perfect fit for it. So really all I'm going to do is same deal. As I did for the windows, I'm just going to go through and texture the floor here. Both sides, don't forget. Now there are tons of different ways to build these buildings. This is probably one of the quickest and easiest ways that I can think of. If you're trying to get out a whole bunch of scenery for your club or you just want some stuff to play on, you got some friends coming around. City Fight stuff, you can crank out 10 of these buildings in a day, built and fully painted. So there's a little bit of texture on our floor section. So now what I do here with my piece that I've cut out, I take a few more measurements. Now what I do is, because this has a little bit of height to it, I measure down from my top window my 1.5 centimeters. Keeping in mind what I said at the beginning of the tutorial, that I like to have a 1.5 centimeter from the floor to the start of the window, so that when the miniature's standing on that level, he actually is looking out the window. So what that line does for me, and you may know, it may not match this line, it may not match this line that you've done on the outside, that's fine. What I do with this line then, is I take my piece and I fit it inside so the floor is level with that pen line that I've just drawn. So let's go ahead and, I should have switched this glue gun on before. Let's go ahead and glue that. Now if you were working with PVA, if you were working with some white glue, then obviously you just go through and put some white glue either on the edges of your floor and then fit it inside. One thing I always find easy to do with the white glue is on this piece instead, draw a bead of glue underneath the line. Then I bend my building slightly, put the floor on one side, line it up, just let it sit for a little bit, and then I fold the other side up. And then I hold that there for 10, 15, 20 seconds, just for the glue to dry. Then I can pop the building up and let it dry. If it's going to take a little bit longer or something like that, I prop it up like that. And on this side, I put a heavy object. And then on this side, I also put a heavy object, just to wedge the two pieces together. I'm going to use a glue gun to do this, just so that it dries faster. I think this will be 2 parts already. So we'll let the glue gun heat up and we'll stick this in there. Okay, so once you've got your pieces all textured and cut out, I think this room echoes a little bit. I hope the sound comes out okay. Just go ahead, like I was saying before, lay your beads of glue either along the floor that you're going to insert or along the piece itself. With the hot glue gun, I'm going to do the wall here and then stick it in. So be gentle with your hot glue gun. You don't want the glue squirting out all over the place. You've got about 15 seconds to work with this stuff before it starts to set up and dry. So you do need to work somewhat quickly, just so your glue's not going to dry up on you. So insert your piece into the building, hold it for a little bit. Once it's dry, there we go. One of those little ruins I showed in the videos. So thanks guys for watching. In the next part when we come back, we'll have a look at adding a little bit of detail to this. I'm not going to add a lot to most of these pieces because this is just going to be for the club. I don't want to spend huge amounts of time building stuff that is eventually going to have to be replaced due to wear and tear and damage and all that sort of stuff. So what we'll see in the next part is me adding a little bit of texture to this and then painting it up. After that, we'll be finished. In some further episodes of this, I'm going to keep a couple of these pieces and I'm going to show you some advanced techniques on how to really make these pieces pop. So one thing I recommend when I've done City Fight in the past is to build sort of maybe 5, 6, 7 of these buildings and then 3 or 4 really nicely detailed buildings. That just adds a little bit to your table. So thanks guys for watching the City Fight series. I'll come back to you really shortly with the next parts for texturing and painting your basic ruin. Thanks guys for watching. I hope it's been helpful. Take care. Bye bye.